Oh, come in, come in. Let me take your coat.
Thank you. You have a lovely home.
Yes. I think of it as the hearthstone of our historical society.
Well, you have quite a turnout for the meeting.
Well, this is the most important thing the society has ever done. And we're so pleased to have you writing about it.
Well, I was very flattered.
Naturally. Oh, Horace. Horace, we need more watercress sandwiches. Would you take care of it, please? Put that down.
There was a time, long since gone, when a man who had a sextant and a compass could go anywhere in the world. Provided, of course, he also had a ship.
Captain, can anyone see you?
Only you have that pleasure, dear lady.
Then why are you here?
For the same reason that this unlikely crew is here. To honor... No one can hear me except you. To honor Schooner Bay's most illustrious forefather. And we all know who that was. Or is.
People, meeting's been called to order. We are here to announce the name of that person who has been selected by our committee as the most outstanding figure in the history of Schooner Bay.
The committee? Elvira, I thought the whole membership was going to vote on that, democratically.
The committee was selected democratically by me. Our professional artist, Mr. Wyatt Andrews, has brought along a model of the statue, which will be erected to this hero in the town square. And our professional writer, Mrs. Carolyn Muir, will write the official history of our hero for the society. And this article will be placed in a national magazine. If we can get one to put it in. The gentleman we have selected for this honor was, fittingly, a sea captain. He was extremely distinguished and colorful, and a hero of the famous naval battle of Veracruz during the Mexican War. And now, without further ado, as Mr. Andrews unveils his model, I will announce the name of our heroic ancestor, Captain Horatio Figg. Mrs. Muir.
Yes? All right, Captain Gregg, I know you're here.
Our perception is improving.
But my temper isn't. I have never been so embarrassed in my life. You made a spectacle of yourself.
Dear lady, it is impossible for a spectre to be a spectacle.
All right, you made a spectacle of me.
Well, perhaps I did act a little rashly. But must you make a tempest out of a teapot?
You acted like an ill-tempered hothead.
I was perfectly cool. I merely threw the blasted teapot at the blasted statue of that blasted fool.
Is it possible that you're also jealous because they didn't pick you?
That was their first mistake. But their greatest error was in paying homage to that total incompetent.
The man was a hero.
He was the biggest coward I have ever known. They even had to Shanghai him to put him aboard his own ship. And then he was seasick.
And what about the Battle of Veracruz?
He wasn't even at the Battle of Veracruz. And when he heard we were going to war, he ordered us to put him off halfway there. It's the only time in naval history that a captain has mutinied against his own crew.
And why does everybody think he's a hero?
For the same reason that everyone thinks Washington actually chopped down a cherry tree.
That is just a charming legend.
It is history distorted, and so is this.
Well, then if you're right...
Of course I'm right.
All right, you're right. But if you are right, then Schooner Bay's making a big mistake.
Right. And as a professional writer, you must expose this fraud.
I don't have any proof. I'd have to have concrete evidence.
You have an eyewitness?
Of course. I'll just run down to the Historical Society and tell them to call the whole thing off because somebody who died 100 years ago told me Fig was a phony.
Well, there's bound to be something. Some old documents or yellowed newspaper clippings or something.
Where?
Well, don't ask me. You're the reporter.
Morning, everybody.
Oh, good morning.
Morning, Mom. Morning. Just toast and coffee for me, Martha. I'm in a hurry.
Where are you going, Mommy?
I'm going into town to do some research on an article I'm writing.
The one about that phony Captain Fig?
Jonathan, where did you ever hear a thing like that?
Scuttlebutt.
Well, you shouldn't make an accusation without having the facts.
You should know he was there. Who? Captain Gregg. Mommy, he's doing it again.
Stop teasing your sister with those ghost stories.
But
But no buts. You eat your breakfast. Martha, where's my toast?
Well, I put it down in front of you.
Well, it's not here now. Scruffy, did you take my toast? Bad toast.
You shouldn't make an accusation without having all the facts.
I'm terribly sorry about last night.
Well, it was an emotional moment for all of us.
You're very understanding.
But I must say that smashing my teapot was an unusual way of displaying your emotion.
I'll be very happy to replace it.
Oh, indeed, I wouldn't think of it. After all, how could you? It was an irreplaceable heirloom.
Well, I hope I can make it up to you by writing a very good article.
Ah, yes, the article. That should be an easy task, considering the subject. Dear Captain Fig.
Before I start writing, I'll have to look at all the documented evidence. For research, you realize.
Well, you've certainly come to the right person. You know who I am, of course.
Of course. Who are you?
It so happens I am Captain Horatio Fig's great-grandniece.
Ah!
You certainly are a tense woman.
I'm just impressed.
Naturally. And it's largely due to my efforts that the captain is finally going to get what he deserves.
And I'd like to be the one to give it to him.
Now, I realize that you writer people are an impressionable breed. So I feel I must warn you that there are those in the town who are a bit disgruntled by our selection of the captain.
At least there's still some sanity left in Schooner Bay.
Pay them no heed. They are merely jealous.
You must have some very interesting souvenirs of your ancestor.
Souvenirs? Oh, my dear. My collection of Fig memorabilia belongs in a museum.
Or a sideshow?
This is his ship, the Marlin.
We used to refer to it as the Herring.
I can just see him standing on the bridge with his telescope.
You just see him hiding in the bilge with his bottle.
This was just after the Battle of Vera Cruz. Look at the fire in those eyes.
Naturally. He was hungover.
When duty called, he did not hesitate.
That phrase was coined when the captain was lost at sea.
He was always lost at sea.
That's going to be on the base of the statue. When duty called, he did not hesitate.
These are interesting.
Well, those are his medals, won in numerous campaigns.
Numerous poker games.
Miss Grover, it would help the article tremendously if you had any written material on Captain Fig, such as old newspaper clippings.
Well, Schooner Bay didn't have a newspaper until the 1850s, unfortunately.
Or conveniently.
But I have something better. The captain's own journal of the Battle of Vera Cruz.
Really?
Of course, it ends abruptly when he was lost at sea.
That's when he jumped ship at Jamaica.
May I see it?
It's my most prized possession.
Oh, but it would be of invaluable help to the article.
Well, I guess you could take it for a short time, if you're very careful.
Oh, here's something about Captain Gregg.
Who?
That's the man who built Gull Cottage.
Oh, yes.
Read it. Read it.
August 12, calm sea, Midshipman Daniel Gregg on watch. I'm getting tired of the smart remarks that come out of that impertinent good-for-nothing. You still mad?
I am not mad.
That's good.
I am not mad.
I believe you.
No, you don't.
All right, then I don't believe you.
That's what I thought. So I'll tell you why I'm not mad. My suspicions are finally confirmed. You're not listening.
Yes, I am. But I've heard the same thing before, and besides, accusations without proof.
The whole thing is an insidious hoax perpetrated on an innocent community by an insipid descendant.
Captain Gregg, I have no reason to doubt Miss Grover's sincerity. And everything I've read in this journal backs up everything I've heard.
Bilgewater. The journal is a blatant prevarication.
Oh, you're not content to call Fig a drunk and a coward. Now you're calling him a liar.
Of course he's a liar. Do I look like an impertinent, good-for-nothing?
Still mad.
Mrs. Muir, I don't give a flying jib what Horatio Fig thought about me. All I care about is the truth.
And all I care about is the truth. Therefore, I don't give a flying jib what you think of Horatio Fig.
Blast it all, woman. Put down that piece of cheap sensationalism and listen to me. Fig did not die at sea. He was seen around Schooner Bay after the Mexican War. And he was no hero. No one in town would even talk to him.
Oh, well, then if he came back here, he must have died here.
Of course he did.
Then why isn't he buried in the town graveyard?
Well, don't ask me. That's for you to find out. After all, it's your article. If you had any integrity as a writer...
All right. I'll go talk to Claymore.
Claymore?
Well, he's the town clerk. If Fig died here, he must have a record of it.
That's a typical piece of female logic, isn't it?
Oh.
You don't take my word for it as an expert on dying. So whom do you ask? Someone who's a failure at living.
What an appetite. Remember, you're not a St. Bernard. Oh, Mrs. Muir, if it's about that leaky pipe, I'm terribly busy and
I've already fixed it myself. Claymore, I'm not here to talk about Gull Cottage. I want to talk to you in your capacity as town clerk.
Oh, certainly, Mrs. Muir. Pardon me, please. How may I help you?
Well, I'm doing an article on Captain Horatio Fig, and I want to look at the death records for the middle of the 19th century.
Oh, well, they're all right here, Mrs. Muir. Of course, there's a $10 fee.
$10?
Well, since you're a client, how about $5? Well, it's to cover the overhead.
What overhead?
Well, there's an awful lot of work involved in the post of town clerk, Mrs. Muir. Why, these records have been meticulously filed by alphabet and by date with cross-references and indexes.
Why, then all you have to do is open a drawer.
$2. It's a matter of principle.
Principal or a bribe?
A bribe? Why, Mrs. Muir,
Claymore, I was only fooling about the bribe.
Fig. Farmer, Ferber, fiddler. Fig, found it!
Let me see it. Prudence Fig. Died childless.
Must have been his mother. It's got to be here somewhere.
It's not here.
I wonder if you could have filed it under Horatio or Captain.
Nobody would file it like that.
He would.
All right. It just isn't here. Horatio Fig did not die in Schooner Bay.
That buffoon must have lost the records.
Captain Gregg, you haven't proved a single one of your allegations. I have an article to write, and I'm going home to write it.
How about a nice cup of coffee?
No, thank you, Martha.
Oh, I forgot to ask, what would you like for lunch?
I've just decided to skip lunch.
Well, now, that's not good for you.
All right. I'll have 2 dinners.
Oh, now, you shouldn't try to write on an empty
you.
stomach.
please stop this at once? You're behaving like an immature child. Don't you think it's time you admitted you were wrong? No. Well, I can see I'm not going to be able to concentrate around here today. But don't think you've stopped me from working on the article. I'll be back. Captain Gregg, why did you lock the door? Hi, Martha.
Oh, hi. Feeling better?
Much better, thanks. I took a nice long drive and worked out the entire article in my head. Now all I have to do is put it on paper.
It'll be easier to read that way. Oh, before I forget it, Miss Grover called 5 or 6 times.
What'd she want?
Well, I don't know, but she sounded like she just found a red corpuscle in her blue blood.
I better call her. Miss Grover, I was just about to call you.
I wouldn't have been home. I've just come from the police.
What happened?
My house has been burglarized.
That's terrible. Was anything valuable taken?
Something beyond value. Captain Figg's medals.
Who would do a thing like that?
Well, I have certain suspicions.
You do?
Well, nothing definite, of course. But there are forces at work who are trying to sabotage the captain's memory.
Forces? What kind of forces?
Those who don't want justice done to Captain Figg. That's why I had to stop by and make sure nothing has happened to the journal.
Oh, don't worry. It's perfectly safe. I'll show you. It's right upstairs. I hope. See, Miss Grover, it's perfectly safe and sound right under the medals.
The medals? The dear captain's medals? What are they doing here?
What?
You took them. I open my house to you, and you take my most prized possession.
Oh, no, it's nothing like
then
that.
Then what is the explanation?
The explanation is, well, when you gave me the journal, they must have slipped into it.
That's impossible.
Miss Grover, why would I bring you up here if I were trying to hide the medals?
You are a strange woman, Mrs. Muir. I've had my doubts about you from the start.
Well, I'm very sorry you feel that way. Since you do.
Oh, no, let's not get temperamental. I know how you artistic people are. Why don't we forget the whole incident?
Well, it really was just a mistake.
Of course. But I don't think the Historical Society will tolerate any future mistakes.
You talk about my integrity, you have none at all. If you can't have things your own way, you'll do anything to sabotage me, even steal.
Madam, I am not a pirate. I fully intended to return those medals as soon as I had proof that they were fraudulent.
Are they?
That is not the point.
Are they?
I'm afraid they're authentic. That doesn't mean he didn't steal them.
Oh, Captain Gregg.
Mrs. Muir, what would you say if I were to tell you that I had concrete proof that Figg died and is buried in this area?
I'd say show it to me.
I haven't got it here.
That's what I thought. Where is it?
I'll take you there.
Why can't you bring it here?
I'm afraid that's impossible. As I said, my evidence is concrete. I have found Figg's gravestone.
Who lives here?
No one now. It used to be the Figg home, but the family moved into town 75 years ago.
You say Figg is buried here?
Yes, right over there.
Fido? Oh, come on, Captain. This is... Captain Gregg? Captain Gregg, where are you? Captain? Captain Gregg, you startled me. For a minute, I thought you were a... Never mind. Captain Gregg, if this is your idea of a joke, I don't think it's very funny. There's nothing buried here but cats and dogs.
And one rat. And there is his tombstone.
It is here. Captain, I don't know what to say.
Well, an apology might be fitting.
I do apologize. This proves he didn't die at sea.
Not only that, but they considered him so low, they stowed him away among the animals.
That's rather sad, isn't it?
Yes, sad for the cats and dogs that had to be buried next to him.
Always sad when a legend is destroyed. There's something else written here.
Don't read it. It's probably obscene.
It's an epitaph. When duty called, he did not hesitate.
What?
That's the same phrase that was on his portrait. Do you know what that means?
Yes, that Fig carved his own tombstone.
Well, Captain, why don't you give up? Even if he didn't die at sea, this proves he obviously was buried as a hero.
What, out here?
Well, why not? It's his home.
Oh, what is the world coming to that it can glorify a man who is a sot, a coward, and a poltroon?
Captain, if you can't act like an adult, you can at least have a little respect for the dead.
Mrs. Muir, I'm delighted with your discovery. Imagine, Captain Fig's very grave.
Of course, it does upset the theory that he died at sea.
Not really. Evidently, he was brought back to be laid to rest among his loved ones.
Fido?
This is an important contribution to the town heritage. And I must apologize to you, Mrs. Muir, for the little suspicions I've had about you.
Oh, that's quite all right. I didn't...
That's odd. The sun is still shining, and it doesn't seem to be raining anywhere but here.
We seem to have our own special dark cloud.
It stopped.
Oh, I was sure it would, just as soon as we all got soaked.
Oh, Miss Grover,
What is it? What happened?
I think Madam Chairman should see this with her very own eyes.
Miss Grover, the epitaph.
Look, but the storm's cleared away. There's another line there.
When duty called, he did not hesitate. He ran like hell. Raging gale and flogging canvas made all sorts of them in a hurry. And then the ship began to come apart, plank by plank. I had just decided to...
Mommy!
Just reached the most exciting part of the tale.
Mommy!
That young scamp should have been bedded down and asleep half an hour ago.
I'll only be a moment.
He's becoming as spoiled as a flounder in the sun.
Is it really true that Captain Fig was a phony after all?
Yes, Jonathan. The scuttlebutt was right.
You know, it'd be really neat, Mom.
What?
If Schooner Bay put up a statue to a real hero, like Captain Gregg.
Good night, Jonathan.
Good night.
That's a fine lad you've raised there, Mrs. Muir. Bright and lovable. It's a fine lad.